Microsoft Azure closes the cloud gap with AWS. Generative AI tops IT spending in Canada, but the talent gap slows adoption. Alphabet shares plunge as Apple eyes an AI search alternative for Google in Safari. And OpenAI launches OpenAI for countries. Welcome to Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Microsoft is gaining ground on Amazon Web Services in the cloud race. Currently, AWS is the market share leader with about 29% of the market versus Azure's 22% and Google Cloud taking up the rear with about 12%. But Microsoft and Google both posted stronger growth than AWS, with Microsoft taking the lead with 33% year-over-year growth in Azure revenue for the first quarter of 2025. Now, the surge is supported by strong demand for AI services, including a large but undisclosed amount of AI processing dedicated to OpenAI and its ChatGPT development. We know that's significant, but we don't know what the number is. But what put Microsoft over the top was not AI, but a wave of enterprise workload migrations from platforms like SAP, Oracle, and even VMware. In fact, Amy Hood, Microsoft's chief financial officer, told investors on a conference call that the AI contribution to cloud computing was in line with the company's expectations, while the real outperformance in Azure this quarter was in our non-AI business. Azure's 33% growth outpaced AWS's 17%, and Google Cloud outpaced AWS, but not Azure, with 28% growth in the same quarter. According to Microsoft, AI services alone contributed about 16 percentage points to Azure's growth, up from 13 points the previous quarter. But the analysts still agree that migrations of large enterprise systems have played a key role. Organizations are increasingly choosing Azure to host legacy workloads, taking advantage of Microsoft's tailored solutions for SAP and Oracle, and its Azure VMware solution, which allows customers to move existing VMware environments with minimal change. These migrations have become a strategic pillar of Azure's growth, particularly among enterprise clients modernizing their IT infrastructure. Microsoft's Intelligent Cloud division reported $26.8 billion in revenue for the quarter, but AWS remained the market leader at $29.3 billion, albeit with a slower growth rate. Google Cloud again took up the rear with about $12.3 billion. To support continued expansion, Microsoft plans to invest $80 billion in AI and cloud infrastructure in 2025. And we've all heard the AI, but maybe not as much of the cloud. Satya Nadella said during the company's earnings call that Microsoft's Copilot, Azure, and our AI infrastructure are the platforms of choice to help every organization become more productive. Certainly true, but their other enterprise architecture is still contributing massively to their success. We don't normally get a lot of surveys or research reports that specifically can identify Canadian results, but this time one crossed my desk from AWS. It said that nearly 9 out of 10 Canadian organizations have adopted generative AI tools, making it the top spending priority in Canada for 2025. But while interest is high, a lack of skilled professionals is slowing the move from pilot projects to full-scale deployment. The report was based on a survey of 424 IT decision-makers in Canada, and it shows that 42% of organizations now rank generative AI as their top budget focus, surpassing even security tools, which came in at 34%. Most organizations have already started experimenting, and in fact, the number was quite impressive. 85% ran AI experiments in 2024, but only 39% of those are expected to reach production this year. And again, I'll qualify the use of the word only. In the early stages of AI, having half your projects go to production doesn't sound bad to me. But there are barriers to success, and one of the biggest is the talent gap. Just over 2/3, 68% of organizations plan to train existing employees in AI skills, and 87% plan to hire new staff with generative AI experience. But still, limited budgets, unclear training needs, and implementation challenges are slowing their progress. Only 50% of organizations have a formal training plan in place today. To address the leadership and strategy needed for AI transformation, 52% of organizations have already appointed a Chief AI Officer, a CAIO, and another 23% plan to do so by 2026. Meanwhile, most organizations are taking a hybrid approach to deploying generative AI tools, combining internal capabilities with third-party vendors. Just 21% plan to build in-house models from scratch, while 71% will rely at least partially on external providers. The study suggests that Canadian organizations are embracing AI quickly, but translating that enthusiasm into enterprise value will require more than investment. It will take leadership, strategy, and skills development at scale. Alphabet Inc., Google's parent company, experienced a significant stock decline of almost 9% on Wednesday, following revelations that Apple is exploring AI-powered search alternatives to Google's search engine for its Safari browser. This development emerged during a U.S. Department of Justice antitrust trial against Google, where Apple's senior vice president of services testified about the company's considerations. Q disclosed that Apple is evaluating AI-driven search platforms such as OpenAI's ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, and Anthropic for potential integration into Safari. He noted that searches conducted through Safari had decreased for the first time, attributing this trend to users increasingly turning to AI tools for information retrieval. While Google currently pays Apple approximately $20 billion annually to remain the default search engine on Safari, this arrangement is under scrutiny in the ongoing antitrust case. The potential shift by Apple to incorporate AI search options poses a substantial threat to Google's dominance in the search engine market. Analysts suggest that if Apple diversifies its search offerings, it could lead to a significant loss in Google's mobile search advertising revenue, which relies heavily on its default status on Apple devices. Not surprisingly, in response to these developments, Alphabet stock dropped to $149.09, marking a more than 9% decrease and contributing to a 22% decline in the company's stock value for the year. Perhaps given the potential loss in revenue from Google for featuring a search engine in Apple's Safari browser, Apple's stock also saw a decline of up to 2.5% following the testimony. And Q, in his testimony, also said that he laid awake nights thinking about that loss of revenue from Google. As the landscape of online search evolves with the advent of AI technologies, Google's position as the default search engine faces unprecedented challenges. The company's future strategies will likely need to adapt to this shifting environment to maintain its market share and its revenue streams. And finally, OpenAI is launching a global initiative called OpenAI for Countries, aiming to help nations build AI infrastructure rooted in democratic values. The program focuses on partnering with countries to develop and operate data centers that deliver localized versions of ChatGPT, particularly targeting improvements in healthcare and education. And the move is part of OpenAI's broader effort to extend its global reach and counter the growing influence of China's AI technologies. Chris Lehane, OpenAI's Chief Global Affairs Officer, emphasized the opportunity to promote democratic approaches to AI at a time of global ideological crossroads. The announcement comes as OpenAI transitions its business model from a capped profit partnership to a public benefit corporation, which can make a profit, but which has a substantial equity holding from its not-for-profit, which they claim will help reinforce its long-term commitment to responsible AI development. The company has also committed to preventing its technologies from being used for authoritarian control. Now, how successful will OpenAI be in convincing countries that it's the best way to develop their AI abilities? This whole question of country AI or sovereign AI is going to be an interesting discussion to have. I know that Europe has some concerns. I know that Canada has some concerns, and it'll be interesting to see if OpenAI can come to meet those. And for those interested in discussing this further, Project Synapse, our AI panel, will be having a discussion about sovereign AI in the Canadian context on our weekend show. Check us out on Saturday morning or whenever you get your podcasts on the weekend. And that's our show for today. We look forward to hearing your comments. Our podcast originates in Canada, but we're interested in what you think wherever you are, especially about sovereign AI. You can reach us at editorial@technewsday.ca or on LinkedIn, or if you're watching on YouTube, just put a comment under the video. I'm your host, Jim Love. Wherever you are, have a thrilling Thursday.